Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to bear down to you because I can barely contain my excitement for this review. I barely told anybody that I was reviewing this. Why am I saying bear a lot? Well, 2 episodes. They have 2 episodes with a bear starting off the show. Man, this guy's hogging up all the spotlight, I tell you, this bear. Man, they should just have him, be a recurring character like that always opens the show. He's always like, open up the show, just with his weird whatever sounding loud noising making that he does, whatever he does there. As I my way through this episode of review, so we go on and there is some, what the is going on with the show? We have clickbaiting things at the end, which I'm like, no! Now I have to watch more episodes, because I want to know what happens with certain people, because I'm effing invested. Plus, here's the thing. I also know what technically happens after episode 7, because I watched the episode by accident. Because my mom was watching Yellowstone, and I just so happened to, see that episode. I'm like, oh, I know what happens, but, still, it's just but I want to watch whole episode. I don't want to be just fine by not getting clickbaited for once, but still, it was so... dude, you've already had people invested in the show already. You're, knee deep into episode now, but you want to have clickbaiting episodes? So we have 2 episodes riding on the fate of the girl named Monica. I'm like, no. Out of all the characters that you could have had written the fate upon, Monica should not be that one person. Plus, I'm kind of wondering what's going to be the aftermath of that situation. Is there going to be doctor bills piling up? Or probably have insurance, right? Insurance should cover that. But I don't know. You would think still probably there's some kind of bill to be had out of that. And I don't know how they're going to get to this thing called paying it. But there's also some interesting backstory going with certain characters. We get to find out why Casey had got a little brand upon his chest, which that is price of admission alone just to figure out and find that story. And it seems like we get a smidgen a bit of the guys going off to do their own little mission to really just have the guys kind of fail miserably at their mission. Which, hey man, mistakes can be made. But it just kind of creates fun story opportunities for certain characters. Man, it seems like that Walker guy is just come on in, and he's really just having a real presence in the show. Nobody, presence not meaning it's not quite December yet, but presence still none the same. So, Beth seems a tweed bit normal within these 2 episodes, but you can also just tell, there is no S given with this woman, which I completely am okay with. Really still enjoying Beth as well as everyone else. Plus, it never gets old. The Jamie and Beth debacle of what is it going to be this episode? When immediately you see them both in the frame of things, you're like, oh my god, what hijinks or shenanigans are they going to do in this episode? Seems to be the consistent pattern that we have here. So, I think with that said, I'm kind of liking how we get some Thomas Rainwater in this episode, or in these episodes. how we really start to get a real understanding of this character. Not that he's just kind of in blips kind of here and there. And I'm just like, okay, like I would also like his side of the story, his side of the coin. Because it seems like we've gotten something with Jenkins, even though it's business, business, business. But we don't see like him and his like maybe day to day or something. But oh well. Like they're probably not gonna have a full focus on Rainwater or Jenkins because it's not a part of the Branch family, right? Or it's not Casey, as the joke goes. Casey has so much focus. Even if even if it's not a show about him whatsoever, if it's an entire flashback that has everything to do with something of John, and he's in his teen years, never had one baby in his life, they'll figure out some way to make it a Casey episode. Where it's like, hey, yeah, like, what do you... hey, John, like, what would your kid's name be if you were to ever have one? Like, well, I think my son's name would be Casey. Really, like, come up with 40 minutes of content of why that you would probably go on and call your child Casey. It's a joke, but it's true. It's honest. But hey, like, frickin' Monica is getting her time in the sun. And plus, I'm enjoying what's going on with Rip here. Because it seems like Rip is doing a good thing, let's just say, in one of these episodes. But yeah, like, we're probably going to have to review some of this stuff in a very roundabout way. I'm going to try to do my best here to kind of go into all of this stuff because there's quite a bit of it. So, with that said, I think let's get rolling on this one. Let's go off and go out of our way to say that it's that customary time yet again to go into this thing called the Double Five Time territory. I think it's about time, guys. I think it's time again to go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil these episodes. So, this episode, let's go into... who should we cover? Let's cover Beth and Jamie. So, because the opening of this episode is to have Casey go and try and scare off a bear, but he scares the bear by yelling at it. It's like, "Ma! Run off, bear! Run off! Bah!" And so the bear is like, "Are you serious, bro? Like, do you even lift, bro? Do you even lift, bear, bro? Come on." And so Casey's like, "Come on, leave. I don't want you to die horrifically. Or after other people had died and then you die after them." Because happening. And so, scam likely. Forgetting people in there. "I just gotta call somebody 3 times a day to see how they're going." Freaking scam people. So, Rip is to go on and is to find Casey because he's to shoot wildly in the air one whole time. And so Rip is seeing Casey and they're like talking smack back and forth to one another. And then they just start beating the crap out of one another. I'm like, man, this episode just got off to a rocky start. You have Casey yelling at a bear, and then all of a sudden people are beating one another up. I'm like, good, really? Pa! I'm like, wow, all right. Like, this started off quickly. Man. So... So yeah, that's how we start off the episode. Both of them fighting, and so transition us to have both Jamie and Beth wanting to go off and go to their attorney general meeting thing where they're going to talk to the governor. And so Governor Perry, who of course we had saw before, mingling a little bit with John, so to speak, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And so we're going to see Governor Perry mingling with both Jamie and Beth to see, like, who do you think is going to become the next Attorney General? Because Mike is to be there, of course, the guy who's to be pulling out of the race because embalming fluid. So, just a prerequisite of what had happened prior in times of life. So, Governor Perry is to be waiting on Beth and Jamie. She's waiting for frickin' ever because Beth is going to take her sweet, sweet time because, of course she would. Because, like, this is hilarious because Beth is to tell Jamie that, hey, like, we can take all the time in the world. Like, she's waiting on us, so we don't have to be there on time. The meeting doesn't start until we're there, and Jamie wants to be there early. Like, for me, I would much rather arrive to somewhere early than late, or, like, exactly on time. But, like, usually I would just have, of course, this thing called no life. So normally I want to be at a place early, just to just stand there and be like, shouldn't you be punching in yet? No, I got, like, way too much time on my hands. All right, great. Why were you here 20 minutes early? I don't know, like, I'm going to eat a sandwich. All right, great. Hopefully that takes 20 minutes. I don't know. I'll watch some YouTube videos. Cool. So Beth goes and she is to, like, she's to have, like, so many excuses. Like, she wants to go and, like, tie her shoe, or she wants to go into the bathroom, and then she quickly comes out and Jamie's like, come on. Like, I know what you're doing. And so you would have thought Jamie would have just left her. I'm like, you then, I'm going. Like, no, like, do whatever you want. Take a dump. I'm going to tell him, like, I'm going to tattletale on you that you, like, you're taking too long. Maybe you don't want this job all that much. Maybe I'll tell them that. And, like, and they're going to figure out a way to not give you this job or not have you campaign or whatever. So we stroll into this office like pimps, both Jamie and Beth. Not me, because whichever. So we have Governor Perry, who is to just hand off Katrina to Jamie and say, like, okay, you're going to be running with this girl. Because really, I think Governor Perry is to immediately rattle off the bat with, like, oh, Jamie, like, this is a long time coming. Like, like, yeah, and Beth, what are you even doing here, Beth? What are you even here for? I didn't even know you wanted anything to do with politics. Like, that's kind of, honestly, Governor Perry's attitude, the way she presents it, is just like, Beth, why are you even here? New phone, who this? Who, why? Why are you here? But Beth, like, we have, I think, at some point, Jamie and Beth kind of separated, and so, like, Governor Perry's to talk to them individually, and so evidently Katrina had worked with Obama, and so when Katrina kind of goes with Jamie and talks about, like, she talks about, like, rainbows and gold and hopes and dreams and real change, and Jamie's like, well, like, I want power and to wield over people with an iron fist because that's my position in life. Like, it's just like, we have good against evil where it's, like it doesn't feel like both of these characters are going to mash up right or correctly. But like I guess somebody wants a job, so they're probably gonna bite the bullet. Christina, I think, has mentioned that Jamie is like an idealist or whichever, and so they're gonna figure out a way of probably working this out. I'm sure. But Governor Perry separates these two, and so the first one up is to be Jamie, and so we have Jamie where Governor Perry's mentioned that, of course, John. There's some stories going around about how John has cancer, and Jamie's like, "So what?" Like, no, like, because Jamie doesn't even know his own father had cancer or is to possibly have uh, cancer legitimately, even though like John does eventually break the news to them, but like it's over, it's done with. And possibly for episode 7, we'll see about that, even though I know what it is. So, because spoilers for my own self, I'm not going to spoil people. Go and check out the next review when I kind of bust it out. Bust a move. Don't, and plus also nobody spoil the show. Come on. I wouldn't think I would have to say that, but like, oh, things are gonna happen in so and so episode. So what? Like, for me, like, I can go on to the show and enjoy it for the way it is, and if anyone is to spoil anything, it would not matter to me. It's not going to affect me, but I'll just remove the comment anyways. So it doesn't, like, whatever. Anyways, pushing on. So, because it's the good thing to do. So, Governor Perry is to talk about how, like, what's Jamie's strategy and all this kind of rigmarole, and how Governor Perry is going to figure out the best way to help Jamie because she probably sees a lot of potential in him. And when we get to Beth, when we side to the Beth side of things, Governor Perry is like, "Why are you even running? Like, why are you even doing this?" And Beth is like, "Well, my father told me to, so I'm doing this." It's like, I'm not going to need your seal of approval or Mike's seal of approval. I'm going to freaking do this, and I don't give a flying F about what you guys are going to tell me or what you guys think you're going to do. I'm going to take my own freaking... I'm going to go to the beat of my own freaking drum, and nobody's going to tell me any different. And that's the thing that I thought was so interesting about Beth, where she's like, I don't give a flying F about your approval. And so later on, when Beth meets back up with John, John goes and takes Beth off to the side, and he's like, you know what? You don't want to be here. Go back home. Go away. Like, it's fine if you don't want to be here, but, like, because obviously, like, John is just so irritated with Beth and her just, like, F off attitude, and so, and just consistently, John is just seeing Beth as just this, like, person to deal with, in all honesty. But we also get this this flashback with Beth also, which Christmas time. I think I can say this whenever because like in between both of these episodes. So Christmas time we had like this one flashback where everybody's around the Christmas tree but Beth, and so we find out that Beth is going through her first ladies' time, let's just say, to be sensitive. Because, hey, freaking, we all go through things. So, Beth is to go on to a tub and get like a warm tub going because, like, hey, it helps. It actually does. There's a lot of people, even like me. Like every once in a while, I'll get out a warm uh, bath every once in a while. Like it's weird, but yeah, like because normally I'm a shower person, but every once in a while you just dust out a freaking warm bath. But yeah, so Beth did that, and so Evelyn is talking to Beth, and so if we had the one episode where Evelyn is to just basically be like seemingly like cold hearted to her daughter, just be like, go and get help. Like in this episode, Evelyn is to go to Beth and say like, hey, like I'm gonna have to make you a much stronger man, even though she's a woman, than your brothers, because like people are gonna come to you, and like you're gonna just need to be much stronger than either one of your brothers. So like you gotta just learn to get a tough skin about things, which I liked that. I thought that was cool. That whole little breakdown, the whole little scene of a flashback where John is going into the bathroom and Evelyn's like, "John, I got this. Just go off and have the kids just open presents." So, but let's rein it back in. So, but John is to just be frustrated with Beth because it kind of feels like John, of course, is to speak to Governor Perry and just kind of see what Beth's attitude is towards things. And so it's like, Beth, these people could actually help you, and you're kind of just throwing this all away. As well as kind of Beth is kind of throwing her company away while she's kind of just Skyping, running her old company via Skype. And like, we'll see what happens with that. So now in this episode, let's cover some things. Let's do some stuff. So, uh, in this episode, we also have it where Jenkins is talking to a woman named Melody. And so Melody is to kind of come up with some business strategy because it seems that Jenkins is to seemingly have some problems with Beth. And so like Jenkins is to try to like go to Melody and like see how he can like course correct what the ranch family is doing and so on and so forth. So which lands us to finally having Thomas Rainwater decide that he wants to team up with Jenkins. And I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Like the two guys combining their forces together to fight the forces of Ranch, I guess, Yellowstone. The people that take up most of TV screen, or in some cases device and or whichever screens. Uh, so Rainwater is going and talking with his people, and they're assessing what lands he can buy, but they're also saying it's like, well, this is going to take a lot of money to buy this individual land because there isn't a good water supply, or it's going to be really tough to go and put electricity there or some other kind of thing. Because John was to go and shift and recorrect where the river was. So, uh, so Thomas is deciding, well, like, I'm not going to buy one little patch of land. I'm going to buy a ton of this land. I'm going to buy all of it. And they're like, whoa, like, that's kind of pricey. And so Rainwater goes to Jenkins, is like, hey man, we should team up and join forces, and because I'm busting out a casino. And Jenkins like, say what now? Like, what? So Rainwater is thinking about putting a very extensive casino out, and Jenkins is like, man, that's gonna cost like a massive amount of money. Do you think you really have that kind of like dough to throw around? And Rainwater's like, well, I'm gonna take out a loan to just get back at those ranchers, those Yellowstones. They're, so Melody is telling Jenkins to like hold the reins there, Bucko. Like maybe we should kind of like reassess this because there must be some reason Rainwater is pulling this off or wanting to do this. So Jenkins is like, you know what? Like I think there's something here that's like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and Jenkins can't pass it up. So Jenkins and Rainwater, I think, in the next episode, are going with their people and drawing up contracts to see how they can kind of uh, really get to like break all this down to where it seems like an actual partnership rather than at some point someone is going to railroad the other and leave them in the dust, and then like they just have a casino with one real legitimate owner. So Jenkins is to want to buy the hotel that is going to be next to this casino to kind of see if they can kind of mitigate or kind of like agree to that, to have that kind of uh, like business flowing for these casinos and this hotel, and see how all that works. So, and then Rainwater is to go off because it doesn't seem like they have really brokered a true legitimate deal just yet. Because Rainwater is to tell, of course, Jenkins that he has so many ideas for this casino, and Jenkins is like, "Well, what are they? Tell me." And then like, I'll agree to this. And Rainwater's like, "No, like I'm not going to do that." And so Jenkins is like, "Well, deal's off." Like, no, like, so it'll be kind of interesting when they come to some kind of arrangement or some kind of agreement, or Rainwater divulges what it is that he had plans for. So Rainwater is driving off into this car, and so Rainwater is to mention to his driver, it's like, man, like, I really would have wanted to do something with that land. I really like. I want to do something with meaning. I want to really feel like I've made a difference. And so the driver is to say, it's like, well, the last guy in your position like said the same thing. Uh, so, but going back into this episode, so let's go to the Monica stuff. Let's cover the Monica things. We also weirdly have, I say weirdly, but that doesn't quite seem like the perfect term. I just don't know what, like, I just don't understand what these girls are doing here. And, like, I don't know exactly, like, why they're in the mix here. We have the girl from Bones, Sarah, or Michelia Collin? I'm probably butchering the crap out of that. Who is to play Sarah Nagayan? And we have her and another woman just going on this like fishing trip, this vacation, and so it seems that she is to be going looking through a newspaper and seeing like, oh my god, like, hey, this John Dutton guy. It seems like he has some land just around here, and it's kind of weird that she's talking about him because in the next time she sees anybody, meaning that she's on screen, she all of a sudden is kind of moving around her boat to all of a sudden see John Dutton and, of course, Carl Reynolds fly fishing. And she's like, ah. And so then we also see her in the second episode where she's a part of the campaign and she's like in the background just kind of clapping. She's like, yeah, Jamie, do whatever you're gonna do because you're probably gonna be the best bet of getting attorney general. Because I want to see Beth win. I want to see the shock and the awe of just Jamie just being absolutely just crushed because he didn't get this attorney general position. And I'm assuming it's going to head that way. I'm assuming we're going to have this weird, goofy thing where Beth is just going to beat Jamie at this, but I don't know. Because show. But man, if frickin' Beth like beats Jamie, that will be frickin' hilarious. But like Jamie seems to be the perfect guy for this job. But we'll see. So the Monica stuff, let's get into that so that we can cover our bases here because I've kind of covered everything else. So Monica is to go off and go to shul because she works there. And so Monica and Tate are going to school. And so Monica is to see two kids fighting. Just, like suplexing, German suplexing, just like Hurricane Ranas and all kinds of stuff is going on. Chairs are flying. No, it's a regular, just like guys are tackling one another and fists aren't really flying all that much until Monica is to come to the fray. Monica is to try and stop these two kids fighting. All of a sudden, one fist is going to be coming flying into Monica's face, and she drops. Tate is to, I guess, call for anybody because everybody's like, "Dude, let's get the out of here because we don't want to get arrested." But the one kid who does throw the punch ends up getting arrested because technically this could end up being close to being an attempted murder or manslaughter kind of charge at this point. I'm like, holy shit. Like, you throw a punch and it might murder someone. Good God, man. Never throw a punch or kick or whatever. Like, especially when it comes to the face. Like, if anything, just, like, maybe trip somebody. And they would still just crack their head on a concrete and then they would die. And then you're like, dude, you murdered somebody by having them fall in a thing of concrete. Just have them, like, just trip them, but grab a pillow really quickly and just, and have it to where their head falls on a thing of pillow, but you trip them and now they're possibly dead. Because you tripped them. That was the one maneuver that you had at your arsenal of tripping, pushing on. So Monica is to go off into hospital and get her head wrapped. And so it seems that Monica is to be fine, even though the doctor is to tell, I guess, that Monica is to have some kind of concussion of sorts. So they're like, well, hey, if you have any dizziness or whatever, like, you probably shouldn't be sleeping during this time. And like if you kind of feel kind of goofy, kind of come back here. So Casey is to, of course, like, kind of talk to Monica and kind of like check up on her in certain times in this episode. And so Monica is to try to get up from her bed and she's like, whoa. I'm like, no. Don't do the whoa. No. So Monica is to head outside her her little humble abode, and Casey and Tate and new guy who dis Sam stands alone. Sam Stands Alone. That's his name. All right, that's pretty interesting. Uh, and we also have in the mix Felix Long, who is to kind of take Tate aside and is to tell him, like, you know what, like, your mother won't discipline you, your dad won't discipline you, but, like, you know what, like, you should still, like, try to become a good guy, like, you should try to become a good boy. uh and like, this kid is just like, dude, I'm gonna beat somebody up soon in a hospital. Like, you can kind of just tell me to be a good guy and whatever, but I'm just gonna go and beat somebody up, sadly, in a hospital because, like, Tate is just kind of just like, he's losing it, and then Tate is gonna have to, or Casey is gonna have to defend his son and beat up some more people, and then the doctor is gonna have to tell Casey, like, get out of this hospital because things are going on. So Casey is just all of a sudden see there is this drone flying around, and immediately what they should have done is they should have waved at it and, like, hey, we're on TV. No, they don't do that at all. They're like, what is this drone for? And so one person is to come up with the suspicion, I think Sam Stands Alone does, where possibly there's some people who want to dig in certain locations, and so they send a drone out to, like, see if the land is good. So, or maybe they're kind of X-raying the land, or whichever, however is the perfect thing to say this, where they're kind of scanning the land. Like, that could maybe happen. That seems like an overreaching. So Titus realized the dinosaur bones, and they're like, oh my god, yeah. So Casey starts chucking rock at this drone. I'm like, it's a drone. It's a drone. They're gonna see you're lobbing rocks at it. So the drone is, like, dodging and weaving like it's nobody's business, because it is his business to go and dodge and weave all these rocks. So one of the guys goes off and shoots the drone and drops it. They see a vehicle parked out in the blue yonder. So Casey and I think Sam Stands Alone goes off and drives to where this vehicle is, and Casey is to try and talk with them, try and like, see what the heck, why they're here. And Sam goes and takes out his gun, and he's gonna supposedly shoot out the tire. And Casey's like, well, like, what would happen then if you did that? So this car goes off, and so we don't know what happened with said car, because they don't conclude that whole story. So Tate is now grabbing every single dinosaur bone he can get his mitts on. It's like, I have to protect the bones, I have to protect the bones, and he's rushing off. So Monica is to come out of the trailer, or the place they're in, and she all of a sudden just falls over. I'm like, man, this woman is going to be falling a lot in this episode. Where's the freaking blue pats? Where's the mats? So that way no one gets injured on the episodes of people falling over all the time. So, like, look at Clue. Like, those guys were just smacking and freaking hitting themselves and falling over and all kinds of stuff. Physical comedy. But this isn't comedy. So Monica falls over, and Casey is to kind of check what's going on with Monica. And so he's performing CPR now. We have Felix Long, who's like, please don't take both of them. And so, because of the other person of their family who was to have died. So Monica is getting CPR'd, and they cliffhang the episode that way. I'm like, are you kidding me? What kind of garbage is this? Don't cliffhang me on, maybe someone's gonna die, tune in next week. I'm like, what kind of garbage kind of setup is that? Come on now. Oh, but it like that just creates good television. To where you're like, hey man, I have to wait a week for that bullshit to resolve that whole garb. What kind of garbage is that? So the next episode is called "A Monster Among Us," called a bear. That's what it's about. So since I've covered some things of this episode in the last episode, we again open up the show with bear. We also have seemingly some tourists that are going into John's land of sorts because he tells them that. So John has had this sweet, just like some sweet like a bow tie going on and some nice duds, and like we open up this episode with John just seeing all these like folks just being next to this bear, and John is to see these people. He's like, "What are you doing here? Like, also don't you realize there's a bear like X feet away from you? He'll murder you." And the people are just like, "Yeah, like no, like he's not. Like we're not that close to him." It's like, well, I can murder you right here and now. You're technically on my land. Like right here is my land. The fence there, you're technically trespassing. So I can murder all of you and wouldn't have a problem sleeping the next day. Just get these freaking people out of his land. So he fires off a gun to just tell him like this is some serious like there's a bear here, and so like you guys are in danger. Get freaking in your tour bus. Get out of here. Get off my lawn. Clint Eastwood style. Get off my lawn. So they drive off, and so Clint Eastwood is trying to scare this bear, and the bear is like, seriously, bro? Casey tried to do that in the last episode. And John's like, oh, okay. So now we have the field hands, we have Rip, we have Jerry, we have Walker, and we have, I think, Ryan? Brian, yeah. Like, weirdly, I don't know why. I think I've seen Ryan somewhere before, but I can't quite put my finger on it right now. Like, his face looks familiar, but I don't remember where I've seen him from. Because every time I see the picture of Ryan, I'm like, where have I seen this guy from? But I just don't remember. Like, I want to say it's like a Teen Wolf. Probably, possibly. Something. Maybe. I don't know. Pushing on. So for this one, we had the Christmas story was in this episode. I wouldn't, and I said it for the other one, but it happens early on in this one, the flashback. So, hence why, like in the other episode IMDb, it didn't have that because I just talked about it in this episode, or in the other episode. So now the field hands are going off to get to this bear because evidently the bear had headed into this place called the Forest. And so at first we have Jimmy, Ryan, Walker all going to go to take down this bear. They're going to wrestle it because that would lead to death. But here's the thing. None of the three of them decided to grab a gun. And so all of a sudden, Jimmy's having a problem holding onto a horse because horses are just... It's not easy being a horse. Check out Wilbur. Yeah, frickin' that guy. Like, he had some lines, you know? Like, he had a really hard life. So, give a horse a break. But then hopefully nobody breaks anybody, but still. So, Jimmy falls off a horse for I don't know how many times now. Because horses are hard to be held on to because challenging. And so Jimmy's to go and climb up this tree. And I'm like, oh my god. Could you expect, like, this actor being told, yeah, you're gonna climb up a tree today, and like, are you serious? Yeah, you're just gonna go ahead and climb up this tree because this bear is gonna come at you. So just go ahead and start just climbing up this tree. I'd be like, no, I'm not gonna climb up a tree today. Like they ask like Jimmy to just kind of do some like really arduous stuff. Like, hey Jimmy, can you get beaten up in this episode? Sure, great. Hey Jimmy, could you just go and fall off a horse in this episode? Sure. How many times can you have me do that? I'll do it. Hey Jimmy, do you want to just climb up a tree today that probably doesn't seem like a tree that you can easily climb up on? Sure. Like anything else? Any? Do you want me to like evil Knievel this mother? Like, when am I going to be doing an evil Knievel jump this day? Good grief! I think I might have to charge my Delio right now. So let me pause here for a second. Like, if there was somebody to die in this show via a farm mishap or something, it would probably have to be Jimmy. Immediately, I would just be like, yeah, Jimmy's gonna die because he's gonna have to do some weird, goofy thing in some episode. He's gonna have to, like, he's gonna have to go down a flight of stairs on a bicycle, and he'll just accidentally die via that. Like, I'm just waiting for someone to ask him to do that, because I'm like, Jimmy's getting the rough ride of things. Maybe they should have one episode just focused on Jimmy, because I don't know if he's going to be alive for very long. Good grief. Big ups to the guy who plays Jimmy. Jefferson White. Yeah. But I'm sure, like, a lot of people could be like, hey, man, we all do a lot of this kind of stuff. Like, it's all physical stuff. Like, hey, man, like, yeah. So, but yeah, this guy is freaking doing all kinds of wild things in these episodes. So, they don't go and they don't kill the bear. And we also had Walker, who had to do something with his rope to help out Jimmy. And so Jimmy gets down from this tree, and Walker's still, Jimmy, you owe me a rope. And Jimmy's like, yeah. So I bet the next time that they go into the woods, they never go without a gun for whatever reason. Because a freaking bear bear down on them. So Rip later on in this episode is to go after this bear because the three other guys didn't have a gun. So you would think after this situation with Rip and this bear, you would think Rip would just be like, motherfuckers, you never, never go out there with a gun again or I'll shoot you myself. You would have thought that would have been like when Rip came back from what he was dealing with right here, you would have thought Rip would have just beat somebody up or told them, like, you never go out there without a gun. If I do, I'll shoot you myself. It'll be in the foot or the leg, so you'll just continue working, but you'll have that wound forever. I'll stitch it up myself. And just like, you would think that would be like for Rip, the one moment where it's like, God, like, because what happens is Rip is to see this bear and to go after it, and all of a sudden, Rip is to see these two people, I guess, going off on their own because I don't know what is up with this tour bus of people and all these people who decide to just go and take a hike right around this, these people's ranch. I don't know what the deal is. Like, what is it? The changing of the leaves going on? Is there some tourist attraction that we're not aware of? Like, what's going on with all these random people that are honestly just kind of stupid and they're just going to get freaking hurt and their eventual deaths? I don't know if I could just feel sorry for them, even though I'm just like, come on, man, cliffhanger style, come on, hold on to that thing, hold on. Because these people are to fall off to this cliffside and they're hanging on. And so Rip is to now, because these people went on for a hike and they saw this bear and they kind of fell off to this side of things. And so Rip is to now go and throw a rope down to one of the people. And Rip just wanted to hear either one of them talk to see if either one of them could speak English or not. And luckily, one of them could. So Rip is to throw the rope down to the girl and is to say, like, hey, like, I'm going to pull you up first. But the guy, I guess, is to tell the girl, like, hey, let's, like, have, like, both of us tied into this rope. And Rip is like, dude, I cannot pull both of you up. Like, I can only do one at a time. But so what ends up happening is because they're like haggling over the rope, the guy is getting really, I guess, like scared at this moment that he's gonna die. So what ends up happening is that because of this guy's stupidity and his rushing, the girl ends up accidentally falling to her death. And so now the guy is holding on to the rope. And so Rip is to look on to this guy. And this guy who is now just, of course, be like guilty as F that this girl had fell to her death, that he just lets go of the rope and falls to his death himself. And then right after that, not only Rip is dealing with that whole situation, and he doesn't even have a second to just be like, God, 2 people just died. Rip all of a sudden is going and seeing this bear full on coming at him. So Rip shoots the bear, murders the bear, viciously and horrifically. But it had to be done because self-defense. So now Rip is trying to call everybody and their brother to go on and like resolve this whole situation. And every time he calls somebody, nobody's answering. And so like Rip is just kind of going throughout the whole like place, just trying to like figure out who to like talk to and whatever. The rest of the field hands are all kind of going in and having a fun time. Walker is singing whatever kind of song again, playing this music and this song again. And I'm just waiting for one time for someone to get so ticked and see Walker with his guitar, and like someone is going to take this guitar and smash it and just be like Animal House. Because I'm waiting weirdly for that moment to happen. So John is to go on and get this this seemingly award of sorts at this like banquet of sorts. And so John is going and talking about what he does, and he's talking about family and so on and so forth. And so when John is to just be done with this speech and accepts this this thing that they're kind of throwing for him, he all of a sudden goes to his table and is to find out that not a lick of any number of his family is to actually be there. And so when John comes back home, he is to go and talk to Jamie, and Jamie was off with his girl that he's campaigning with to kind of set straight like what they are to want out of this. And which leads to Jamie mentioning also that like anybody who is to be technically on his family or just his side, like he's also going to try to protect them. Or if there's like-minded people like him and his family, he wants to go and protect them. So Jamie goes home, and so John is like, "Hey, why weren't you at my banquet? We could easily have campaigned, and we could have easily like started bumping shoulders with some people that you're gonna be like helping out for your campaign, and Jamie's just like, well, like, hey, like I have to go and start putting things together, like putting things in motion, and John is like, okay, whatever. So like, but John was just like, well, it would have been nice if anyone at my family or with my family would have shown up. We also had John talk to Monica on the last episode, and I forgot about this. We'll bring this up now. Monica was to ask John, why did Casey get his brand, his Yellowstone brand? And so John has mentioned that he lost trust from Casey because the reason why he got that brand was because he let Monica have a child. And I was like, wow. Because Casey, I guess, had lost trust in Casey way too many times. And, like, Monica getting married was, or Casey getting married to Monica and them having a baby was the last straw. Because John wanted Monica to get an abortion, and Casey couldn't go through with that. So John gave Casey that branding himself because of that whole situation, which I was like, wow, that's like Monica at that point should really realize like how much Casey not only loves her, but then also loves Tate, that like he couldn't go through with it, so it's like, okay, freaking brand me, because that is to freaking hurt, I'm sure. But we have it where, because Casey is to think like, well, I thought that was just only reserved for prisoners. Why did Casey get the brand? And so John tells that story. So we what else happens in this episode? That's it. That's all. We're all folks. That's it. No. No, I think that's like I pretty much almost covered everything. Um, Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure there's something that I missed out. I know that there's something that I forgot about, and that's bound to happen. Uh, there's probably a whole huge story that I completely forgot about this episode. Because, again, that's bound to happen. Oh, what happens in Monica in this second episode? So, it seems that we find out that that Monica is to have a like seemingly brain hemorrhage from her injury that was to supposedly just be some concussion, but now she's to go into surgery to get her head operated on because she's having a hemorrhage in her brain, I believe. I'm not going to say the like if that's the exact words or whatever, but so Tate and Casey are in this hospital. Uh, John is to also go into the hospital to get a clean bill of health. And so John is going through, I think, an MRI, which they, at some point, are to kind of give him a cleaner bill of health. And so John, at some point, is to mention that like he wished that he could have gotten a more like dignified deathly disease or something like that, or deathly illness or something like that, and he walks off. And I'm like, yeah, like it kind of like it freaking sucks when a lot of times you get something where like oh really, that's all it is, or something like that, or oh that's like oh like uh you get sometimes where like you go into like surgery and stuff like that, and then you have to tell like a billion people, oh yeah, I got surgery because of this, and like oh like yeah, because like it happens. So moving on. So John just so happens to be in the hospital, and Tate is there, and John's like, Tate, why are you in the hospital? So Casey is to see after the surgery what Monica looks like. And the doctor is telling Casey, it's like, hey, don't go in there. Or your son goes in there. Like, don't. Just, like, you're going to regret seeing her like this. And so Casey's just like, well, like, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to see her. And then he's like, yeah, I regretted seeing this. Because, yeah, just, it's like, no, Monica. we have to invest in this character now because like we want everybody to be Oakley Dokley. So so it seems like Monica is out of the woods. It seems like it seems like things are like progressing in the upside of things. So now on the other end of things, Casey is to go and beat up some people in the hospital. So is Tate. They're gonna duke it out with these people at the hospital because there's a misunderstanding going on, and so the doctor kind of throws Casey out, and so Casey takes Tate and takes him to the ranch, just kind of like, John, like, you need to just kind of watch over Tate because Casey's going and visiting Monica. So John is to go and kind of be with Tate. And I'm like, what kind of hijinks are they going to get into this time? But John is to all of a sudden kind of go just like, oh, like, and I'm like, no, stop it with all the ohs and the whatevers. And like, no, everybody. So John is to kind of be in some pain, and so John is telling Beth, like, Beth, can you go and watch over Tate? Because I'm going to be busy barfing up something. So Beth is asking John, it's like, hey, are you all right? And John is like, I'm fine, whatever. And so we have at one point where Beth is to mention about her mother, and John is to mention, like, you will never bring up your mother in this house ever again. Like, that is the last time that you're ever going to mention your mother in this house. Just take care of Tate, like I had said, and watch over him. So Beth goes and takes Tate, and she's like, hey, you hungry? He's like, I can eat. So they're like, but Beth asked Tate, was like, well, what are you hungry for? And he's like, well, what do you got? And so Beth is like, well, I can make a cheese wheel or some, like a cheese meal or some kind of cheese assortment. So Tate is like, nah, nah, nah. So they're like, well, how about we just go with like Rip and all his people and like see what they're eating? Like, just go over there. Just spend some time with them. So John is going into the bathroom and he's barfing up some blood. I'm like, mother, like, what's going on with all these people? Like, they're doing some hijinks in the show. People are seeming to just be dropping like flies in the show. Like, because it's freaking hard work, I'm sure. Because it's like crack of dawn till crack of forever to do any number of any of this work. And so, yeah, we're starting to see some people dropping like some flies here in this show. So, John is now like a toilet of blood. That's a horrible visual to have like popped in anyone's brain, but it's the truth. John walks out and is to just kind of lean off to the side and just be like God, like, come on, like you're really making me go jump through some hoops here. Come on. And so John immediately thinks his cancer is back because he must not be in remission. But we find out in the next episode that it's not cancer, but it's something else that has to have a very quick surgery being done, and then he's whisked away to an actual hospital because if they weren't to have gotten to this right then and there, John possibly would have died. So they go and take him to a veterinarian to kind of deal with this, and then they whisk him away into the actual hospital, just kind of like to kind of just finish up. So, with that said, I think I've covered most of the last episode, so I think I'm going to get out of here. If there's anything I forgot about, I do apologize, but otherwise, I think it's that customary time yet again. I'm just trying to see if there's anything. Uh, I know there's something I probably missed that's bound to happen, but I'm also going to want to get the heck out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.